gentlemen, what a busy news day and what a jam-packed show we have for you today. You might be watching, of course, on the Occupy Democrats Network, Washington Press. You could be on the FM AM dial streaming our show on my YouTube page at PTL Radio Show, and we're glad you're making us a part of the show. So I just found out this morning that, yes, the Ukrainian-American businessman who just testified on Capitol Hill and embarrassed the Republicans, Lev Parnas, will be joining us on the show in hour number 2. He has a lot of things to say about Matt Gaetz. In fact, he tweeted out, or X'd out, whatever you want to call it. It's hard to believe Captain Venmo would have so much to criticize me for when I was trying to get marijuana licenses when he was flying to the Bahamas with his convicted wingman, their 17-year-old girlfriend, and the founder of the American Medical Marijuana Physicians Association. So Lev Parnas will be joining us coming up in hour number 2. I have always wanted to talk to him, and I'm very much looking forward to this interview. Coming up here in just a few minutes, reporter will be joining us. You might have seen him if you ever did watch Tucker Carlson. He made a lot of appearances on Tucker's show. He's a reporter. His name is Julio Rosas, and he's been covering these Kyle Rittenhouse events on these college campuses. In fact, he was at the University of Memphis the other day. So we're going to talk to him about what took place there when Kyle Rittenhouse was paid for to speak on campus, which obviously I disagree with. The breaking news, I do have a little bit of a smile on my face, and I might be in a better mood than usual today. No, it's not just because Nicole Mitchell is going to be joining us at the bottom of the hour in studio. Candace Owens has been fired. Yes, that's right. You see, Candace Owens could have quit at any time, but she put out this post on social media. If you want to know where she worked, it was the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro. Thank God, no relation to me. But Candace Owens puts out a tweet today, and she says, "The rumors are true. I'm finally free." She's trying to make you feel like she was a slave or something. She was getting paid boatloads of money to work for Ben Shapiro. No, it's not that she's finally free. She's finally fired. And she wants you to believe that she's the victim, and she wants to call all these people out there woke. She's the one that is the snowflake. She's the one that wants to cry victim. She's the one. And guess what? This might be really hard for some of you right-wing idiots out there to understand, and I talk about this all the time. They say, freedom of speech, you're being censored. No, you're not, you frickin' turds, you morons, you bird for brains, you MAGA idiots. Freedom of speech pertains to the government. It doesn't pertain to private business. Ben Shapiro, who I never defend, but I will here, and the Daily Wire can fire whoever they want to, even if they don't like something that their employees said. I have no respect for the Daily Wire because if you remember, it was Candace Owens who stood with Kanye, the Hitler lover, and they were both wearing shirts that say, "White Lives Matter." You couldn't be more disrespectful to black people out there and the cause of equality because it's very simple. Candace Owens is a grifter. She's an opportunist. She's a Democrat. Deep down inside, she's a Democrat. But the reason why she flipped to Republican and started to go after the LGBT community and make bigoted comments, the reason why she goes after the trans community and all that other stuff is so that she could make money, so that she could get clicks, so that she could sell books and make TV appearances. Let me be very clear, if I ever got my hands on one of her books, I would use it as toilet paper because that's what I think of Candace Owens and any of her content. All she does is spread hate and bigotry, and she's no different than an Alex Jones. She's no different than a Matt Walsh. She's exactly the same. She's Leo Terrell 2.0, who realized that, well, I can't be a civil rights attorney and be a Democrat and keep making appearances on Fox News because they're starting not to like me. So I better turn into a right-wing conservative black person so that I can get more appearances on Fox News and maybe I could sell books and become more popular. It worked for Larry Elder. It worked for Leo Terrell. Sadly, it's worked for Candace Owens. She is despicable. And I would say that to anybody who spreads bigotry and hatred and lies about the LGBT community and transgenders so that you can make money. She is a grifter and she is an opportunist. And, you know, she's trying to become the victim and she could have quit. She says, now I'm free. You were free before and you could have quit. But she wanted people to think that she was canceled. This is a professional grifter. And now she wants your money. She's no better than Donald Trump. She's a snake. She said, if you would like to support my work, you can head to my website where you'll be directed to my locals pages, or you can send me a gift. Send Candace Owens a gift for being a complete bigot and fool and grifter. Send me a gift at gocandace.com. All the problems we have in the world and all the people that are struggling. It's kind of like the dopes who are buying these Donald Trump sneakers, although Donald Trump is actually in financial trouble. We'll get to that. These morons who want to donate money to Candace Owens, she's trying to make money off of this. She was fired. She wasn't freed. She was fired, and Candace Owens is no victim. You want to know who the real victims are? The people who Candace Owens goes after. Those people who happen to be in the LGBT community or transgenders. She goes after her own people. Why? Well, black conservative, saying things that show up in the media that are very controversial and I would call bigoted in nature. It gets clicks. It makes her money. Candace Owens is despicable. And anybody out there, and I'm the last person to defend Ben Shapiro. He's a little weasel. He's a snake. I'm the last person to defend his company. I don't support it. I hate Ben Shapiro. The only thing, sadly, we have in common is our last name. Ben Shapiro is a little weasel turd. Your thoughts don't care about your feelings. He's a little weasel. But if he had any decency in him at all, he would have fired Candace Owens a long time ago. Who the hell would hire this woman? I understand. She's someone who can make money for you. Would you hire Alex Jones? Candace Owens is no different. She spreads bigotry, hatred, and she incites violence towards certain people that she doesn't agree with. That's who Candace Owens is. Why would you surround yourself, by the way, around somebody who praises Adolf Hitler? Donald Trump did it. And why is it that Nick Fuentes supports Candace Owens, a known, openly admitted white supremacist Nazi, is praising a black woman? Why is that? Because, like Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens spreads bigotry, hatred, and some white supremacist talking points, and she is clearly Islamophobic and homophobic. Again, that's who Candace Owens is. She is a grifter, and she is an opportunist. So no, Candace Owens is no victim. She's got a lot of money, and she's going to be just fine. Please don't feel bad for Candace Owens, even though she's, again, going on social media now and crying victim and begging you for money. Just like so many else out there who, on the right, who will call people snowflakes, and yet Candace Owens now is calling herself a victim. It's absurd. Anyway, I did talk to a gentleman from Turning Point yesterday about this Kyle Rittenhouse paid appearance that he made on the University of Memphis campus. Chaos did erupt after. There were protests, and I wanted to actually talk to somebody who was on the ground there, who was there to see it all and kind of get the scope of it, because Kyle Rittenhouse is speaking again at other universities. He's going to be at Kent State University next month. So this is not going away. And I figured what better person to join us than somebody that was there. Obviously, a longtime reporter. You've seen him on many of the national networks, and glad he's joining us again. Julio Rosas joining us right now. Julio, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you joining us. How are you, sir?
I'm just fine. I survived Memphis.
Yeah, well, that was a crazy situation there. Hey, before we get to Kyle Rittenhouse, I do want to get your take, if you don't mind, on the Candace Owens news. I mean, what do you make of the fact that Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire let her go this morning? What are your thoughts on that?
I got to be honest, I don't care about that at all. I've got 10 other things that are more important to me right now at this moment than caring about what Candace Owens is doing or what Daily Wire is doing in that regard.
Yeah. Oh, I understand. I mean, obviously it's a big news today. That's why I was talking about it. But listen, I don't feel bad for Candace Owens at all. But let's talk a little bit about Kyle Rittenhouse. That's the main reason why I wanted to have you on the show today. So when exactly did you get on campus? How many hours before Kyle Rittenhouse was supposed to speak? And what did you see there?
I got on campus about 2 hours before. It started at 7 p.m. Central Time. So I was there about around 5. And, it wasn't anything crazy at the beginning. I mean, people were starting to show up, and fairly. I think the height of the protest was around 200, 250, give or
Hmm.
take. So part of the issue was that I mean, I can confirm that the university did take over the ticketing process
Hmm.
because they Turning Point did have their own set, and then the day of they got canceled, and the university um, gave out new tickets, and so that's why we saw a lot of people who were against Kyle Rittenhouse being able to enter the venue itself. And that's not to say that no one who has a different opinion from him shouldn't be allowed.
Right.
But as we saw inside, because there were so many people who were just there just to be disruptive, that's why I didn't exactly go the way that to actually have a constructive dialogue about his experience and his obviously his ordeal. That's why that didn't necessarily take place inside.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when someone is speaking, I don't think it does any good to scream over them and yell. And I did see those videos, but I did see a video in there where a black gentleman is speaking and Kyle Rittenhouse says, let's have a dialogue. And then he allows the gentleman to ask him a question. And they were talking about Charlie Kirk. And I played this audio. And this gentleman rolls off some of the, in my opinion, despicable things and bigoted in nature things that he has said. About, when I get on a plane and I see a black pilot, I wonder if that black pilot is trained properly. He rolled off like 3 or 4 things. Clearly, Charlie Kirk said these things. He said them on social media and he said them on a podcast. And then when Kyle Rittenhouse asked for the dialogue, he says, I'm not going to comment on that. And I don't know anything about that. I have a problem with that. You're asking, and by the way, I don't condone the people that were yelling and interrupting. I'm not condoning that at all. But this gentleman was respectful. I think we would agree. And Kyle Rittenhouse says, let's have a dialogue. And then all of a sudden, Kyle Rittenhouse doesn't want to have the dialogue and he doesn't want to comment on clearly things that the founder of Turning Point said. What did you make of that?
Well, I think it was just in regards to the fact that he wanted to have a dialogue about his situation. I mean, that's why the whole reason why he's going on campus. I mean, he's also going to be at the University of Western Kentucky next week
Right.
as well, in addition to Kent State. So,
Right.
obviously, I'm sure that there's obviously the whole group was the protesting group obviously is not a fan of Turning Point in general, but my understanding is just that Kyle wanted to talk about specifically about his case and
Understood.
talking about other things. I mean, that's not his purview.
Understood. But I would say this then, and if that's the case, then why didn't he say that? Hey, I don't really want to comment on things that somebody else said. I just want to comment on me. I wish he would have answered the question that way. I get what you are saying. And you're right. There's a lot of people there that were not a big fan of Turning Point. I'm not either. I think Charlie Kirk is despicable. But that's just my personal opinion. That's not why I wanted to have you on the show. All right. So it was cut short, right? He walks off stage with his dog. What ensues after? I'm assuming you were right outside that building afterwards, right?
Yes. So, so once things kind of did calm down, because there were a few tense moments with campus police because the crowd got closer to the entrance. Police said, no, you have to step back. And obviously there was a little bit of back and forth there, but it was kind of fun because then the group kind of marched away to where there was like this quad area. And so they were just giving speeches. They were just talking about, why they're out there, why they're against what's happening. And so I initially thought that things were going to be done but at that point. But then the crowd came back towards the entrance, and they saw. So Rittenhouse was already off campus at this point. He was he was on campus, but the Turning Point chapter members and the Turning Point staff started to leave the building. And once the crowd realized who was leaving the building, that's when they got really invigorated, so to speak, to actually charge at them, blow past campus police. The Tennessee State Police were also on hand, and so the Turning Point people had to run to their cars because this was a very hostile group, a very angry group at them, and they went up a staircase at the parking garage, and people quickly realized that they have to pull out of this parking garage that only has one entrance and one exit.
Mm-hmm.
So the crowd then started to go towards that entrance and exit, and they actually again started to block the same people that they had just chased down, the pickup truck that they were in. And so the campus police and the Tennessee State Police had to then come in once again to push them away to allow the Turning Point people to leave.
So Julio, was anybody arrested? Did anybody break the law?
I don't think, to my knowledge, I don't think anybody was arrested. In terms of breaking the law, I think they came pretty close to it
Mhm.
a few
But nobody
times in
was
turn.
physically harmed, right? Is that fair to say?
Not to my knowledge, no one was
Okay.
actually struck or anything.
Okay, good.
I think the worst of it was they, in terms
Yeah,
of like physicality, they were spitting on the truck, which is,
yeah.
I think it's hilarious just because like, okay, fine.
I saw that video. Yeah,
No, no one was arrested. I mean, in terms of law breaking, I mean, it got
right.
pretty close up to the line, I would say.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, and as I said before, obviously, I don't condone anybody spitting at anybody or charging at somebody. The point that I guess the people at Turning Point had to know, Kyle Rittenhouse, and you know this, controversial. It doesn't matter whether you agree with Kyle Rittenhouse, you like Kyle Rittenhouse, or you're somebody like me who thinks Kyle Rittenhouse is a complete idiot, and I do feel that way. But they had to know that this is going to create controversy more than just people maybe holding signs. Do you think this wasn't very well thought out? Because they had to know that there were going to be a lot of angry people on campus.
Well, I'm sure that they knew that there were going to be angry people on campus, but again, the whole point of, or one of the reasons why I find it amusing whenever just any conservative speaker comes to campus,
Mhm.
well, maybe not any, but obviously there's varying degrees of controversiality. But
Right.
just because someone's controversial, I don't think that then automatically, I guess my question would be, well, why would that provoke you to go up to the line of violence in this specific case? Because obviously
Yeah. Well,
there's
I don't
been more.
defend that. Like I
No,
said, I
no,
mean,
no, no.
yeah,
No, right, right, and like you said,
yeah,
like it goes beyond just like the sign holding, which of course
right.
no one will disagree that
Listen, if people want to
that is
chant,
the right.
uh, Julio, I think we agree. Like, if people want to chant Kyle Rittenhouse, you're a murderer, they're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But when you charge at somebody and you spit at cars, that's obviously ridiculous behavior, and it makes you look bad, quite frankly. And there's no defense of that behavior. It's interesting, Julio. And by the way, I'm glad to hear that nobody was physically harmed. Thank God. We don't want that to happen. Nobody was arrested, and as you said, they towed a line there. But I'm glad, at least nobody was physically harmed. With that being said, tell me how you feel about this, because we've had these conversations before with you, and I appreciate these conversations. I had somebody from Turning Point on yesterday, and my point is this: you're not breaking the law. You're allowed to have any speaker you want. I would never say otherwise. And I've never said Kyle Rittenhouse is a murderer, because he's not. However, I just think, in my opinion, and this is where opinion comes in, it sets a very dangerous and bad precedence when you reward somebody, because Kyle Rittenhouse is being rewarded. He's getting paid to make these appearances for being a 17-year-old kid showing up with an AR-15 dressed in green camouflage or whatever he was wearing, acting as a vigilante. I just think that sets a bad precedence for all 17-year-olds across the country, saying, hey, it's okay. If you think there's going to be a violent protest, show up with your AR-15. And I just think it's, why would you want, I don't understand why anyone wants to hear this kid speak. Like, I don't understand. Help me understand that.
So there's a few things with that. So actually, I did ask him. So I was able to interview after
Mhm.
things had calmed down at a different spot, and I did ask him. I said, "Look, a lot of people, even some of your supporters, would say, why are you leaning into the publicity instead of riding
Right.
off into the sunset?" And I think there's a few things with that. He said that he was almost going to go to prison for exercising his right to self defense, and that's a very important right for anybody. And he said that he views himself as an activist to make sure that no one else's right to self-defense is taken away. That aside, I think it's also just the fact that he himself has said that he wouldn't do that again. So I mean, he has never, to my knowledge, has never once advocated to say, yeah, 17, 18-year-olds go out and do the same exact thing I did in that way. With the exception, of course, to you have the right to
So
self-defense. That's
basically,
what
you shouldn't have been there.
that.
You shouldn't have been
Well,
there.
I
He
mean,
said.
those are definitely his words, and so I would just
Okay.
say that I would just say that I would also just think he almost doesn't really have a choice, in the sense that, because what are his prospects to having a normal life? It's not very high, and one of the reasons is because we know that the far left, the radical, like the actual left, they would hunt him down. They would try to figure out where is he at, because there's a lot of people that do believe that he's a murderer, that he's a white supremacist, a terrorist, and all this other nonsense. Um, and so, even if he did try to be on the down low, I absolutely would not put it past the more radical elements of the
Well,
left to try to ruin his life for acting in
Yeah.
self-defense. So I think he views it as like, well, I can either try to have a normal life with
Mhm.
that not being a high probability, or I can use the voice that I've been given, through this horrible ordeal. As he said, I mean, he says to himself that it was a very horrific thing to have gone through at such a young age. But that doesn't take away the fact that, three people attacked him, without cause, and he uses right to self defense, and that's basically what
Yeah.
he is trying to go on campus, college campuses, to
So
tell people,
I'm glad.
anyone who's willing to listen.
So I'm glad, Julio, that he had admitted the obvious. I've never heard him say that, but I'm glad he said it to you that he shouldn't have been there. But with that being said, he doesn't have to show up and get paid to speak. He can live, I guess you could say on the down low. He's the one who's choosing to accept money, in a way being rewarded for, in my opinion, doing something very stupid. You can do things that are stupid without breaking the law. And I guess I would go further. And I guess this is the question I would ask him, that, it was not admissible in a courtroom. And I would ask him, I would say, a week before this shooting, why were you thinking about shooting looters? He's caught on audio and video in a car saying that, I wish I had my AR-15 so I could effing shoot all these people. They were looters who were stealing stuff in a store. I think we all could agree we don't condone that behavior. We want you to get arrested if you go into a store and you're stealing liquor or anything. I would ask him, why would you make that statement? Because I think to normal human beings, 17 or 70, when you hear about people that are stealing stuff from a convenience store, the first thing that doesn't enter your mind is, I want to shoot you with my AR-15. That's the question that I would ask him. And I think it's an important one, because I think it goes to what he was thinking in his brain just a week before the shooting. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, we have to remember this was a very chaotic time in our country's history, and when things go haywire and normal people see, hey, what we know to be a normal society is going to the wayside because what's perceived to be police injustice, and so, I mean, look, I don't know what was going through, I don't know why he said that. I
Yeah.
could have asked him about that. I actually honestly forgot about that part.
Yeah.
But I think it's just when people are allowed to do these things, and destroy our country from within, as what was happening through the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020. Um, people are going to get sick and tired of it, and so I think that's was one of his motivations in terms of, hey, he's from Kenosha, or I'm sorry, he's not from Kenosha. He has family in Kenosha. He has ties to Kenosha, and he's seeing this town being needlessly burned to the ground over a justified police action. So why should it, and if no one's going to stop it, and it's going to allow it to continue, and people are going to get hurt in the process, like why should that be allowed? Obviously there should be more thought into, how you're going to go do that a smarter way. But like I said, that doesn't take away the fact that he acted in self-defense that night. I mean, the whole reason why the whole chain of events was started because he was trying to put out a fire, right? I mean, it's not like he was going up to just random people and shoving a
And
gun
if
in
he
their
only had,
face.
I agree with you. If he only had a fire distinguisher on him, then I would agree. But when you bring an AR-15 to we agree. I think when you bring an AR-15 at the age of 17 to a dangerous situation like that, it's very stupid. That's just my personal opinion. At the same time, if he wants to say, hey, I can't have a normal life ever again, well, maybe you shouldn't be getting paid to make speeches then. That's just my personal opinion. Maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews sitting next to Ted Nugent on very popular conservative podcasts. If you want to live a normal life, then live a normal life and stop making all these public apperances and write a book and trying to make money off of it.
Well, Brian, I already told you why. I don't think the far left would allow him to do that. So, I mean, you can disagree with my theory, but I don't think it would be I don't think it would be an exaggeration to think that would be an action if he wanted to do that. And also, and like I said, he has the right. He was smeared 6 ways to Sunday for nearly 2 years before he was able to finally safely, provide his side of the story. And there's a lot of people, like I said, there's a lot of people that believe all of these misconceptions about what happened that night. That guy that you referenced that listed all the questions to him, he prior to that, I interviewed him and I said, hey, did you watch the trial? No, I didn't watch the trial. And I could tell that he didn't, because he believed that the gun traveled across state lines, which did happen, but it happened after the shooting because the
Yeah.
AR-15 was purchased in Wisconsin. So all that to say is just that I think, if I was slandered, in the national way that happened to him, I would want to be outspoken about it. Like, why should he have to suffer
I
and
think
just
there's
take all of
okay.
those slanderous things?
I
I
think
mean, Brian, if you were falsely accused of something on such a national scale,
yeah.
wouldn't you want to be public about, like,
Well,
hey, that's not what
yeah.
happened?
Well, I can tell you I would never show up to a volatile situation with an AR-15 dressed like G.I. Joe because I'm not a moron, and I think he is. I would also say that I wouldn't try to, if I did something stupid like that, which I would never do, I wouldn't try to capitalize on it and make money off it. If he wants to speak out and he wants to defend himself, totally cool. I understand where you're coming from,
Well,
but
I mean,
he's writing books.
he has a lot of expenses. He has to have a security team with him because people want to kill him. That doesn't come
Yeah,
cheap.
I don't think Kyle Rittenhouse needs a security team 24/7 wherever he goes. I don't personally buy that. I think he definitely needs a security team when he's getting paid to show up at events. That makes complete sense to me. The point I'm trying to make is he's trying to make money off of doing something stupid. Notice how I'm not saying breaking the law. And that's where my
Right.
issue is with Kyle Rittenhouse. I agree with you. You should be allowed to defend yourself in this country. I, for one, have never called him a murderer. I've called him a moron. And when you try to write a book and make money and make all these appearances, I think it's a really stupid thing that Turning Point is doing. There's great people out there that are conservatives on the right, some people that serve this country honorably, that are outspoken conservatives, that are decent people, that are good people, and they choose Kyle Rittenhouse. Why? Because it'll cause controversy. Well, somebody's going to get hurt, and I don't condone that sort of behavior, as I've said to you before, and we agree on that. I just think there's a difference between defending yourself, speaking out to defend yourself, and then writing a book and making all these appearances and making money off it. That's where I have a problem. And when people say he's not a white, I've never called him a white supremacist, but I do question the fact that during the trial, he shows up at a bar with his mom. He's not the age of 21. Whether he says that he didn't know whether Proud Boy members were going to be in that bar or not, I don't know if I believe that, if it was just a coincidence, but I do know that he took a picture, and this ain't the, hey, everything's A-OK sign. We know what this sign means, and it's not a coincidence.
It means okay.
So he's standing next to two.
No, I know the whole
members.
I know the whole meme behind that. This is not the average person. So okay, I mean, not to go off on a tangent about that, but I just think it's really dumb to give such a really small portion of the population who, yes, may use that hand gesture to mean something else, but to blow it up out of proportion to then say, see, he's a white supremacist is.
I didn't say he's a white supremacist.
I know, but you're referencing the hand gesture that people are
using. Do you know anybody that does this with Proud Boy members? Do you know anybody that does this sign hanging out with a bunch of Proud Boy members?
I mean, I don't know. I know a deaf person, and I use this sign. He's like, "Hey, are you okay?" Because that's the universal meaning for this. Okay, and we can go this whole back and forth about whether or not. I'm just saying, from my view, it's really dumb to try to do this whole 6 degrees of association because he did this one.
You're entitled to that opinion. I would define very dumb as in the middle of a trial when you're on trial for your life.
It wasn't during the trial. It was after. It was during
the pre-trial. Right?
It was pre-trial. Fine. It was before the actual.
Right.
It was before.
But you're on right pre-trial or trial. Your life is on the line, and I would define being dumb, showing up at a bar with your mom, taking pictures with a bunch of Proud Boy members. If he wants to claim he didn't know they were Proud Boy members, I'm not buying it. And if you believe that he was just taking pictures with Proud Boy members, which has, by the way, been labeled as a hate group by many distinguished organizations, and he just happened to be, hey, everything is A-OK, when I've never seen one other picture of him, and he's taken pictures with a lot of people and a lot of supporters, and I've never seen him go like this. And the only time he does this is when he happens to be hanging out with a couple of Proud Boy members. No, I'm going to go on the side was he knew exactly what he was doing. That's just my personal opinion. We'll have to agree to disagree on that one.
Well, but Brian, you say he's a moron in one hand, but he's this somehow mastermind when it comes to he knows what he's doing and when it happens to fit.
Well, I don't think I would consider something a mastermind when somebody uses the white supremacist sign during a pretrial and hanging out with a bunch of Proud Boy members. I'm not defining him as a mastermind. I'm saying he knows what this means. And I think Kyle Rittenhouse deep down inside knows I wasn't doing, hey guys, everything's A-OK. He was doing what the Proud Boy members support, which is a white supremacist sign. The same, thing that others have done that do the same thing. I don't think he's a mastermind at all. I stand by what I said. I think he's a really dumb kid. And he did something very stupid that day. Didn't break the law, but he did something very stupid and naive. And I don't condone the violence. I'm glad you're there reporting on it. I'm glad you're there to tell us what happened. I don't want people to spit on cars. That's ridiculous. I don't want people to charge it at Turning Point members. That's ridiculous. But I'm concerned that something bad could happen. And if something,
but that's their fault. If the left wants to act all violent, that is that's not Kyle's fault for showing up to speak. If someone causes you, if someone is who did nothing wrong,
yeah,
and it causes you to just act, lose your sensibilities and just start acting all violent, that's not on them. That's on you.
I agree. The person who commits the violent act, it is 150% on them. That's where
right. But you're trying to blame Turning Point for
what I am.
It's this guilt by not association, but you're trying to pass off the blame for some of that.
I'm not passing off any blame on a person if they commit a violent act. What I am doing is saying, if you don't want any of these things to happen, and Kyle Rittenhouse wants to say, geez, I can't live a normal life, then maybe you shouldn't be getting paid to make appearances on college campuses when he knows that there's a lot of people that dislike him. That's all I'm saying. Not against the law. Turning Point has the right to do what they're doing. Kyle Rittenhouse has the right to make money and do what he's doing as well. I just think it's despicable when somebody does something stupid in society and sets a bad precedence that, for 17-year-olds throughout the country. Even he admitted to you that he wouldn't do it again, yet he's profiting off of a mistake that he made. I just have a problem with that. But hey, we'll leave it there. I appreciate the fact that you're reporting on what happened. I appreciate the fact that, you come on the show and we have these debates, because I do think they're extremely important. I'm glad you're there. Are you going to be at another one of his speeches down the road?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
All right. Well, if you are there and you do post some videos, I'd love to have you on again, because I love to hear firsthand knowledge on what you saw and what's there, Julio. And I do respect your opinion, and I always appreciate your reporting. How can people follow you and support what you do?
They can subscribe to my Substack, mostlypeaceful.live. And just to end off really quick, if America didn't want to have people profiting off of dumb mistakes, then we wouldn't have the Kardashians.
Yeah, I don't. That's funny, actually, Julio. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a big.
That's the American way, Brian, and Kyle is far from the only person to do such a thing.
I was going to say Jersey Shore.
Well, there's that as well. Yes, there's that.
That is true. You do have a good point there, my friend. But nobody died from watching the Kardashians. I will say that. But Julio, I appreciate you coming on, my man. You're a stand-up guy, and I look forward to having you on again down the road. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That's Julio Rosas, everybody. I don't watch the Kardashians. Coming up next, we'll ask Nicole Mitchell. She is formerly a pastor on the far right, comes from an evangelical family. She got out of that lifestyle. She turned her life around. We'll talk to her next. Oh, yeah. And by the way, Lev Parnas is going to be joining us in hour number 2. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be back in 90 seconds. It's Pushing the Limits.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. No veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media, or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well. So I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Friday. A programming note for you. Lev Parnas is going to be joining us in about an hour or so. He's the Ukrainian-American businessman who worked very closely with Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani. He just testified on Capitol Hill. He's going to be joining us later on. Certainly looking forward to that. I want you guys to support the sponsors of this show, including Pioneer Air. Leo is the CEO of Pioneer Air. He came out here from Mexico with his family through the churches and has this successful air conditioning company. And if you call them at 702-703-6346, you're going to get pre-scheduled maintenances, a dedicated hotline, repair discounts, extended warranty. A very successful business that's been around since the 1930s. Please give Leo a call at Pioneer Air, 702-703-6346. I always love talking to people that, maybe they didn't have the best childhood. Maybe they didn't come from the best background, I guess, for lack of a better term. Well, the lovely lady we have with us in the studio, you've seen her on Dr. Phil's show. Are you kidding me? Yes, my Dr. Phil. Also, she's been on Jimmy Kimmel's show. She's a former pastor, comes from a very far-right evangelical family. She got out of that lifestyle. Now she's an OnlyFans follower on the lifestyle, and I love speaking with her on the show on a weekly basis for a while now. And we love having her in studio. It's a nice change of pace. Nicole Mitchell joining us with me. Nicole, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for the conversation have today.
Yes.
Pretty intense.
Yes. Well, first of all, for people that are unaware of your background, can I characterize that correctly? You come from a very far right evangelical family. You're a former pastor, which sounds like, if there is a hell, that's what it sounds like to me. I mean, that just sounds horrible. I'm sorry. I know there are pastors out there that are very happy people that come from nice families that are right. It just sounds like hell. Like if I had to choose the worst thing in the world, it'd be maybe lying on the bottom of Donald Trump. That would be probably hell number one. Or number two, having to come from this family. Listen, all due respect to your family, but a right-wing evangelical family, when you know that's not who you are. You don't want to be that person.
It's pretty intense. It's pretty stifling. They did a good job. The communities I was raised in did a really good job at really shoving down who I really was. And I really bought into the programming for most of my life. And I was overworked, underpaid, and not living my authentic truth. And I think by the time I did leave, it was such an eruption of change because I had been stuffing it down for so long that it kind of had to come exploding out. And so people thought I had an early midlife crisis, but I was finally just not shoving down everything they told me to be afraid of.
Would you say it's a cult? And I'm not even talking about Trump supporters. I'm talking about evangelical Christians in general. Do you think it's a cult?
I think there's cultish characteristics to the evangelical upbringing I had. So I would agree with that. There's cultish tendencies.
Yeah.
With the amount of indoctrination, the amount of not being allowed to question ever the pastors or anyone in authority, the programming of you have to be like this, look like this, to act like this, to fit in our community. If you don't, you get excommunicated. Like that's pretty cultish sounding to me.
And it's interesting because you talk about indoctrination, and yet so many people on the far right use that word and say liberals and Democrats when it comes to drag queen reading, and people who happen to be gay, that they say the left is indoctrinating our kids, which I find to be utterly ridiculous.
I have an opinion on that.
Yeah.
When Christianity is like what currently the number one religion in the US, the programming of the US is Christianese. When there's other thoughts and beliefs and ideologies coming in to teach people a different way, that's not indoctrinating.
Right.
That's exposing them to different beliefs and possibilities. So like, if there's anyone who's doing the indoctrinating, in my opinion, it's the religious right, because they have had the say of our culture for so long.
Agree. And a good segue to the religious right.
Ooh.
You're a former pastor.
Yeah.
I want to play you some audio from a North Carolina pastor who's come under fire recently during his sermon. He suggested that women who wear shorts deserve to be raped. You cannot make this stuff up. His name is Bobby Leonard. I want to play you this audio, and then we'll talk about it after.
Oh my
A man is a man.
God.
And he's talking about if you're wearing booty shorts, which I, depending on who's wearing them, I do enjoy looking at those. But he's basically saying if he was on the jury and a man raped a woman because she was wearing booty shorts, he would let that man go free.
Oh,
you're a former pastor. This is a pastor. What do you make of those despicable comments in my eyes?
Okay, I'm like so freaking triggered right now, but because that was the belief I was raised in. It was always the woman's fault, never the man's fault, never the man's responsibility. So it triggers my entire lifelong indoctrination that a woman is always to be blamed. And now, obviously, I'm of age and can think for myself outside that programming. And it's the rapist's fault every time. It does not matter what someone is wearing, what time of day it is, where the location is. It is the rapist's fault every single time.
I mean, it's just disgusting.
It's disgusting. It's horrifying.
How could anybody make a statement like that and defend rape?
I mean, but like, that's what I remember. Okay. So I remember telling someone close to me in my church when one of my girlfriends was raped. And the first thing this person said to me, what did she do? The first assumption was she did something to deserve that, not holy crap, that is horrible. We need to take this man down. She was blamed throughout the entire thing. It's terrible. And this is why women often don't come forward with this, because they're not often believed. And then when they do come public about it, people call them attention whores and that they're doing it to get money and like get press, when these women just want peace and they want their peace back at night. And like, they are so blamed through this whole process that it's so unsafe for women to come forward with their truth. It's
so terrible. And when you speak to some of these types of people, they'll make it sound like drag queen reading is what's hurting our children.
Oh my gosh.
Now, I am in no way, shape, or form insinuating that every pastor is bad,
right?
Or every church is raping kids. I would never make a statement like that.
Right.
However, we know that thousands of children have been sexually abused at the hands of priests, pastors, and yet I haven't heard of one child that was harmed in any way, shape, or form, physically or mentally, from going to drag queen reading. But these are the same people that are sending their kids to churches. By the way, I have no problem with that. But if we really are going to dive deep into this, look at all the children that have been abused in the churches.
Yes.
I haven't heard of one child being abused by a drag queen or a drag queen going into a bathroom. Oh, no, you went into the wrong bathroom. And it just, I don't understand these people. I don't understand these evangelicals. I don't get it.
It's a distraction point. instead of dealing with the actual issue at hand, which is the sexual assaults that are happening within the church and within church leaders and church spaces, let's pick something over here that has nothing to do with it and make them the bad guy. Let's distract from our own problem. And that's what they're doing. I will tell you though, when I went to my first drag show in 2016, this is the first year I came out as queer and I was new to the queer community and I'm trying to explore my world. When I went to my first drag show, I learned more about consent in the first 5 minutes at that show than in my entire life in the church.
Isn't that a good thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible thing that the church never taught me consent. I never knew what consent was, even as a grown adult, until I went to a drag show.
And I'm glad to hear that. I went to a couple of these drag queen readings, and you know the message that I heard, Nicole? Let's treat everybody as equals.
Yep.
Be happy who you are.
Yes.
Be comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah.
And treat others with respect that might be different than you. Wow, what a horrible message to send to our kids. And these are the same, some of these pastors that are defending rape. I mean, it's so sad. I laugh because I'm like, these people are so disgusting. Have you ever heard a pastor talk like that? Have you ever heard anybody in your inner circle when you were younger, when you were in that lifestyle, talk like that?
Yes, that's why I'm so
Oh
triggered by it.
God.
Like literally they believe it's always the woman's fault and it's always the woman's responsibility. And like I believed it until I remember I was 24 years old and I was having this conversation with this couple friend of ours and we are telling them about this girlfriend of mine who had just been raped. And this wife said, even if I was drunk and I went to bed, my husband would never touch me because that's still rape because I cannot consent. And that was the first time like, oh, like no one had ever been that direct with me. I just always thought, what did we do to cause this? Why was it? We must have done something bad. And she's like, absolutely not. There is no man who would ever take advantage of a woman while she's under the influence unless he's a freaking rapist.
Yeah. And let me be clear on this. Like, I don't think the majority of Republicans think like this, but it seems to be coming from the right. It seems to be coming from the evangelical far right, which was a lifestyle that you were forced to be in. I want to be very clear on that. It wasn't like, hey, I want to be a pastor, or hey, I want to be in this lifestyle. You were forced to hang around these types of people. And I got to tell you, I don't even know how you did it. I'm glad you're not doing it now, but it's just this type of man belongs in jail.
Oh,
okay. And
so bad.
And you know, rape to me, it's one of the worst crimes anybody could commit. Yep. And for this Reverend Bobby Leonard to be defending this sort of thing, it makes me wonder if he's ever committed sexual assault in his life.
Oh yeah,
you know,
he would justify like, well, she forced me. I don't like. It's so immature. It's so unethical. It's absolutely cruel and immoral. And the fact that he's preaching it to the masses, which is not only programming the men that it's okay to violate a woman, but programming women to be always afraid that they did something to cause it. And you can't come forward with it because you deserved it.
And these are the same people that not only support Donald Trump, these are the same people that defend him when it comes to the E. Jean Carroll rape case, the civil case, when it comes to the 26 other women that have accused Donald Trump of rape, sexual assault, including Donald Trump's ex-wife in a deposition in court documents. These are the types of people that continue to defend Donald Trump, because I personally believe Donald Trump probably believes some of the stuff that this Reverend Bobby Leonard said.
Totally.
Right? I mean, I believe Donald Trump, even though he's not a religious person or not an evangelical, I do believe he's a rapist. Yeah. I do believe that in my heart. He's certainly a liable sexual abuser. And these are the types of people that defend it. And they blame E. Jean Carroll. Example, Donald Trump continues to defame E. Jean Carroll. They continue to say, well, because E. Jean Carroll had a cat named Vagina, that must mean that she could not be a rape victim. Because E. Jean Carroll made a joke on CNN about what she was going to do with Donald Trump's money, that must mean she has zero credibility. You know, and then and we've talked about this before, Nicole, about how women don't always report right away if they're the victim of a sexual assault. Understandably, there's a lot of reasons why. They're afraid of the person that might be powerful. Look at Bill Cosby. The guy raped how many women decades ago, and they come forward and he was convicted. So the idea that just because a woman doesn't report it immediately or the next day or the next week or even years later, that she can't be the victim, that she doesn't have credibility, is absurd.
It's just interesting as you share all that, because the theme is the woman's always wrong and the woman's always at fault. It doesn't matter when she comes out, if she comes out, the allegation, she's always at fault. She's always doing like, a woman can never win, and a woman knows this in our society. And so a woman has to decide, speaking my truth and experience potential serious lashback and potential career stoppers by powerful men who did these things and have the power to stop their career, or hold knowing my truth, but also live with the trauma and knowing justice will never be served. Like, it's an impossible choice for women.
It is. We're going to take some phone calls on the other side, but before we take a break, I do want to play you some more audio. Let me give out that number first. 702-221-7283, 702-221-7283. This might be a trigger to you as well. So I'll start by saying this. Donald Trump, just a few days ago, said that if you're Jewish, Nicole, and you vote Democrat, that not only do you probably hate your own religion, but you probably hate and do not support Israel. Now, 70% of Jewish people in this country are Democrats. So he's saying 7 out of 10 Jews hate their own religion and hate Israel, which is obviously an absurd and ridiculous statement. Okay, that's number one. Number two, Charlie Kirk, who I've been talking about, who was in Las Vegas yesterday, by the way. I was asked to go to one of his events. I refused to do it because he's despicable. He's the founder of Turning Point USA. He is a, in my opinion, white supremacist sympathizer. He said if he sees a black pilot on a plane, he wonders if that black pilot was trained properly. He said we shouldn't have Martin Luther King Day. We shouldn't celebrate Martin Luther King Day. We shouldn't celebrate Juneteenth and other despicable things. So Charlie Kirk made this statement the other day about Christians in this country, referring to who they vote for. Have a listen to this. And all these idiots in the crowd, and that's what they are. They're idiots without a brain, bigots. They start clapping the same way that Donald Trump says something derogatory about Jewish people. They'll start clapping too. What do you make of this moron?
I have to laugh because it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Like, again, it's such a distraction point. Instead of talking about things that actually matter, let's turn Jewish people against each other. Let's turn Christians against each other. So as long as there's infighting, we'll never get around to making the change that we need to make. It's such a, like, classic tactic to keep everyone distracted, make everyone busy pointing fingers at each other, that nothing gets done and all the people in power get to stay in power. But if we want to make change, we've got to stop infighting, stop giving power to people saying dumb shit like this, and start voting in the direction you want to vote for the change you want to see.
Yeah, but the sad part about this is, though, this guy has supporters, just like Donald Trump.
I believe it.
Just like Donald Trump has a lot of
Anyone who's
supporters.
really polarizing, this is the beauty and the regret of polarization, is you will always attract people who are diehard loyal fans of yours, and you'll always repel a ton of people. But you will attract a ton of people. So these leaders know what they're doing. By, if I can say really polarizing things, yes, I'm going to piss off a ton of people, but it's going to get me like a diehard following that will do whatever I say,
so right.
and you get public sway with that.
You're so right. And I talked a little bit about Candace Owens to start the show.
Oh, gosh.
A black woman who used to be a Democrat, now turned Republican, who was just fired today from her organization that she worked for. And, you know, she's now playing the victim card about how she's being censored, and she's asking people for money today. These people, I think a lot of them, now I don't think Charlie Kirk is a very intelligent person. I don't think Candace Owens is stupid. She says a lot of stupid and bigoted things, but I don't think she's stupid. I think these kinds of people, and you could be black, you could be white, it could be Tommy Lauren, it could be, Candace Owens, they say things and they change their political views, not because they really believe it, but they say these things that are over the top, that are controversial, I would say sometimes bigoted in nature, so that they can get clicks and make money. You're the type of person, sure, you want clicks and you want people to be, on your OnlyFans page, but you're not hurting anybody. You're not hurting anybody by
targeting people groups.
No, you're not.
No.
You're not. And you do life coaching. You actually help people. I would also argue, and I have no problem with anything you do, that, if somebody wants to, how do I phrase this the right way? If somebody is feeling a little lonely and they want to have some comfort in any way, shape, or form, whether it be talking to somebody on the phone or looking at pictures on the internet, whatever the case may be, That's helping somebody get through a tough time. They could be depressed. They could have just. You're actually
Totally.
helping people.
Yeah.
And Candace Owens, all she does is divide people
Yeah.
and spread bigotry. Bigotry about the LGBT community, bigotry about transgenders. It's really disgusting. I think she's a disgusting person. And now, she was fired, which she should have been fired a long time ago. And she wears a shirt with Kanye West months back that say, White Lives Matter, which is only for clicks. And it's so, it's like, I don't know why people pay these types of people.
Yep.
Why do they give somebody like Alex Jones attention, or a Charlie Kirk who says you're not Christian if you, if you vote Democrat? Why in society? Why do people pay these people to speak?
It drives me crazy because I think what people like that, what they do is they really speak to the primal part of our brain that gets you into fight or flight mode, and people just react and they're not thinking with our evolved part of our brain, and they're just thinking and they get all caught up, and then they spend money, and it's like they get caught up in this emotional storm versus do I actually agree with that? Is that really true? And giving space to actually ponder. And my big thing, as you kind of highlighted, my big passion is uniting people.
Right.
You can spend all your life energy dividing like people do, or you can spend your life energy uniting. And I'm so committed to uniting people because there's so many people who spend their full-time career dividing people.
Donald
and it doesn't
Trump
produce
continues to do it every day.
any good.
Yeah, Donald Trump continues to do it every day. Yep. We need more people in all walks of life, whether it's what you're
all
doing,
industries.
It could be in politics, whatever the case may be, in trying to bring people together.
Yes.
And I think we're more divided politically than we've ever been in our lifetime. I think we're more divided racially, and that's really, really sad, and that needs to change. So here's what I want to do. I want to open up the phone lines.
Ooh.
And we've been talking about a lot of different topics. Lev Parnas, by the way, is going to be joining us a little bit later in hour number 2. We have Nicole Mitchell in studio. She is a former evangelical right-wing Christian, comes from that family. She was forced into it. She's a former pastor. She's now a life coach. She is completely out of that lifestyle now. I would say the opposite on the right side of history. Very successful. And we're going to open up the phone lines. We've talked about that. We had Julio Rosas on talking about Kyle Rittenhouse at college campuses throughout the country. Kyle Rittenhouse admitting that he shouldn't have been there that day, but yet still making money off of his stupidity. We're taking calls on that as well. You could ask Nicole Mitchell anything you like. The number to call is 702-221-7283. And again, that number, now's the time to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. 702-221-7283. Any of the topics we discussed in the first hour, taking your phone calls. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back in 90 seconds. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran, veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. Do you know no veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
Voters want safe gun reform, ban military assault weapons, including AR-15s, have universal background checks, and red flag laws. I am Eva Chase, a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16, U.S. Air Force veteran, college graduate, progressive independent candidate, fully transitioned transgender woman, former lieutenant governor candidate for Nevada in 2022, where I received 7,212 votes in the Democratic primary. Follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. Donate to my campaign Bot Fun account and stay progressive.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Residents of Las Vegas Ward 5, are you ready for a brighter future? I would like to introduce myself, Dr. Erica Smith, your People's Choice for City Council. With a vision for progress and the fortitude to make it happen, I am committed to moving us forward. I am not just a candidate, I am a fighter for you. With myself on the City Council, you can expect a real change and a community that thrives. Vote for Dr. Erica Smith, because together we're building a better tomorrow. To learn more about me and my campaign, go to www.ericaforlasvegas.com, paid for by the Vote Dr. Smith Committee.
Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. Check out my friends at Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Great food, great atmosphere, great gaming bar. Probably the best chicken Alfredo I've ever had. Go talk to Brian Slipach over at Jackson's Bar and Grill, and they'll take care of you and tell them that I sent you at Pushing the Limits. We got Nicole in studio, Nicole Mitchell. She joins us every week, but it's a nice change of pace to have her in studio, that is for sure. I have to look at Numchuck every day, so this is a much better situation for me. And I think it's better for Numchuck as well. I think he would concur. She is a former pastor, comes from a right-wing evangelical family. She's been on Dr. Phil's show. She's been on Jimmy Kimmel. Now she joins us here on PTL, and I'm so glad to have her here. Boy, we've talked about a lot of different things. The first hour of the show, we talked about Kyle Rittenhouse, the fact that he's getting paid by universities across the country to speak, which I think is utterly disgusting and ridiculous. One thing I didn't mention, Donald Trump's in a little bit of trouble, Nicole. Yeah, that's right. So in the coming days here, Donald Trump might have to sell Mar-a-Lago. He's got to come up with close to $500 million, and it doesn't seem like any company and loaners out there want to give him the money and pay up, and I guess they've asked over 30 companies, and none of whom have said yes. So he has all this property, right? He's got the Trump Towers all over the place. He's got Mar-a-Lago everywhere. And the word is that Letitia James is going to be taking over some of those properties. Is he going to sell a property? I have absolutely no idea. Can I ask you this? Because you're pretty good at dealing with like body language and how women think and all that. So I wanted to ask you this question. You've seen the videos of Donald Trump and Melania Trump walking together. She slaps his hand and it almost seems like she's on a contractual obligation to walk with Donald Trump. Like when you see those two anywhere near each other, which by the way is rare these days, what do you think is going on in that relationship?
I've always wondered. I mean, you and I have talked about this on a previous show before where I'm like, I think women can be really smart to marry economically and for influence and access to money and fame, but then why they stay, I don't know all the details there. So because you can read the body language, you can see the energy oozing off of them that this is not a happy arrangement. Yeah. And so I'm so curious what keeps her there.
I would think it would have to be some contract and money, but then I say to myself, what if he runs out of all of it? It sounds like he's going to be running out of money with all these judgments against him. She doesn't seem like she's very happy.
Yeah.
But then again, I say to myself, what did you expect? Did you marry this guy for his lavishly good looks?
No.
Even Stormy Daniels, right? I get
Yes.
it. She's a porn star. But I don't feel bad for Stormy Daniels because she's the one who decided to have sex with Donald Trump. Nobody forced her to do that. She's the one who chose to do it. So I understand there was a non-disclosure and he paid her $130,000 and they had unprotected sex and she said it didn't last very long and all that other stuff. So I'm really looking forward to more of those details, hopefully when she testifies. But are we supposed to feel bad for Stormy Daniels? Like, you're the one who decided to be with this man. All due respect to every woman who's ever slept with Donald Trump. Why did you do it? You knew who this guy was, didn't you?
Right. Yeah. If it was consensual, I'm totally fine with that. If she got paid for it, I'm even happier for her because I'm like, it probably was 3 minutes long and you made some good money.
So she got paid after, though. So here's the thing, right? My understanding is that she wasn't paid to have sex with Donald Trump. She was paid to shut up about it. It was like a and listen, non-disclosures happen all the time, but this was right after Melania had Barron. Like literally a few months after. Now, this isn't anything new with Donald Trump. He's basically cheated on every woman he's ever been with. But at the same time, the issue is campaign finance violations possibly and other things involved as well. And yet Melania Trump still stays with him. So let me ask you that. Criticism from the right. Same deal. Hillary Clinton. Why did she stay with Bill Clinton after all of his infidelities? I guess every woman, it's their right. Every man, it's their right as well.
Yep.
Why do you think so many women continue to stay with their man even if they lie and cheat the way Donald Trump has?
I mean, it's so hard because every woman's story is so different. And I know, like, I have friends who stay in marriages that are no longer good for them because they don't have the financial independence they would need to be able to take care of themselves and their kids apart from their marriage. They are so socially intricated with their partner. Like, they do everything. Work and social life is so interconnected that if they left, they would lose everything, not just their husband. They would lose their entire social circle. They would lose access to certain projects they're working on. Like, it's a massive loss. And so then a woman has to decide, do I stay internally miserable but like still publicly and socially have access to things I desire, or am I willing to walk away and lose everything and maybe not have the means to make it for me and my kids? That's a really hard decision as a woman, which is why in my coaching world, I teach women, like, make as much money and success on your terms so that you're never put in a situation where you are dependent upon your spouse to make it. Because I see so many women stay in an economic arrangement, even though it's absolutely horrible for them, because they feel like it's the only viable alternative they have.
Now, maybe I deserve a little criticism for this, because I'll be the first one to admit I've mocked Melania Trump at times for what she's done in her life and maybe pictures, provocative pictures she's taken. Now, as you know, maybe I'm a little biased, but as you know, I have no problem with women showing their stuff, or men or whatever. They have the right to do so. It's not against the law. And if Melania Trump made a lot of money taking naked pictures, fine. The problem I have are those kinds of people that want to go after the credibility of Dr. Jill Biden, who is and I'm not saying because you take naked pictures, you're not smart, you're not educated. Obviously, I would never say that about you. At the same time, those are the kinds of people that go after Dr. Jill Biden. And I'm like, okay, what about Melania Trump? Maybe she's a smart lady. I don't know. I don't know what her education is. But she did take a bunch of naked pictures back in the day, which, whatever, it is what it is. At times I've made some jokes about that. But how do you feel about that? A first lady, and we all know what she looks like naked, I guess, for lack of a better term.
I mean, there's kind of evidence of that where, like, Kim Kardashian obviously is famous for her sex tape, and she's gone on to do, like, social justice work and fighting for women in prison. Like, I don't think anything you've decided to do with your body or not do that's done consensually. Let me make that clear. We're not talking about sexual predators here.
Right.
But people who do things consensually with their body has any bearings on their education or potential impact on the world. But I do hate when people who do something like that, like they've sold naked pictures or whatever, and then they go on to criticize or create laws to try to stop other people from doing it. Like pastors. I remember this one pastor I heard about where obviously he's very against porn and the porn industry, and like, let's vote for laws that stop, adults doing adult things consensually. And he pulled up his PowerPoint one day for his sermon, and it was porn. he pulled up the wrong thing off his laptop.
Right.
So the very thing he's preaching from the pulpit that's so horrible and so evil is the very thing he does behind closed doors. I hate that double standard.
I find there are so many people like that are such hypocrites.
Yes.
Where they'll be anti-porn. Quite frankly, I don't know why anybody, I hate to sound like, I never would sound like Charlie Kirk, but I am going to generalize here. If you watch porn in any way, shape, or form, why would you vote Republican? So many Republicans out there are anti-porn. They're anti-porn industry. Again, they come from back in the day where you grew up in that far-right lifestyle of evangelical Christians that call themselves anti-porn. Yet I guarantee you that so many of these same people probably love porn even more than the average person.
Because it's so repressed. Like it's like they need it more than the average person who has a healthy relationship with it.
Yep.
And it's really interesting, Brian, because I'm an OnlyFans model and I work with OnlyFans models all over the country. And there's this new niche emerging of these OnlyFans models who are extremely right-winged and make porn. And they are bashing like a traditional right-winger all over social media, but they make porn. It's like it creates cognitive dissonance in my brain. I watch them. I'm like, wait, we met. They were super cool. They make amazing hot adult content, but they are a total right-winger just smearing everyone who does anything. And I'm just like,
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
The
It doesn't add
liberals,
up.
Democrats and liberals, for the most part, as long as it's obviously not children or underage people, for the most part, correct me if I'm wrong, are watch what you want to watch so long as it's not breaking the law and adults do what adults do. The Republicans basically want to ban everything involved in porn. You look at Mike Johnson, who's the GOP House Speaker, who I forgot the app that he was using with his son, but it was some sort of app that he was using where they both check on, making sure that they're not watching each other's porn.
There's like accountability sites.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was like an accountability thing. And I'm thinking to myself, how spooky and how creepy are you? Like, first of all, who wants to know what porn your father's watching and vice versa? How creepy of is Mike Johnson that he actually wants to pry into his son, and his son is probably using his friends' phones and his friends' computers because his creepy dad wants to spy on him and see what type of porn he's watching, maybe because he wants to watch the same porn. Like, it's so weird. And I don't know. To me, it's just so gross.
Brian, I love hearing this perspective because I grew up in churches where we preached that. We actually taught people the different accountability sites you could go on to create so you could be held accountable to your dad, to your son, to your brother, to your best friend. And I've never heard it viewed the way you just described it. It is creepy. You're right. I never thought about that because that's been my normal for so long.
Nicole, our producer Numchuck here found the actual app that I'm talking about. Numchuck, what's it called?
Accountable to You.
Accountable to You. Not creepy at all. You know, these are the same people that call Joe Biden a pedophile, right? Because he sniffs little girls' hairs. And yet Mike Johnson, he has this accountability. How weird are you? I'm sorry. I'm
really glad you're bringing up this perspective because it was so indoctrinating me that is normal. To hear you say that, I'm like, you're right, and we're smart. Of course, even my 8-year-old knows everything can be viewed in his browser history, so he knows he could just use someone else's device to see what he wants.
Stupid.
Like the kid, an 8-year-old knows. Trust me, your teen son knows how to get around your accountability for you website.
So stupid.
For $14 a month.
Oh, wow.
You can have the family plan.
I do want to say this, though. I think because I am a parent of multiple children, and it's this weird road I have to navigate as an adult content creator. How do you talk to your kids about pornography? How do you make sure they're at an age where they can understand that this is entertainment, not education, that this is for adults, not for kids? So it's like I walk that road of like I'm very sex positive, body positive, adult work positive in my home, and trying to raise my kids with like awareness and consent and bodily education and sex education, and not being addicted to porn at too young of an age. Like it's a difficult road to walk.
It is. When you're an adult, I think
you should be looking at trying to look at your son's porn. Or
no, I just think that's so creepy and so weird.
I get that.
By the way, I will open up the phone lines if anybody wants to give us a call. 702-221-7283. Nicole Mitchell in studio. 702-221-7283. I do find it interesting that Mike Johnson and so many of these people on the far right, they use the term accountability, yet this was the same guy who tried to overturn the outcome of the 2020 election. You know, this is the same guy that will attack undocumented immigrants every chance he gets. This is the same guy who wants to make it easier for people to get their hands on guns. This is the same guy who doesn't want to help the poor. He doesn't want to help those that are struggling. He wants to tell, this is another can of worms. So many people on the far right want to tell a woman what to do with their body when it comes to the issue of abortion, especially those on the far right and the evangelical right. They want to tell a woman what to do with her body. And many of these people are middle-aged, Republican, crusty men who don't know what it's like to be pregnant. And yet these are the same people who are talking about accountability. These are the same people who are talking about accountability partners, and they want to tell a woman what to do with her body. I find it so repugnant.
It's very hypocritical. It's very double standard. It's do as I say, not as I do. They're free to do whatever they want, but you're not free to do whatever you want. I'm free to make the call for what I think is right for my body and for your body, but you cannot make the right call for your body or for my. It's so one way, and it's absolutely maddening as a woman who is constantly being told, you don't know what you want, you don't know what you need. I will tell you, and then I will legislate it for you.
It's so horrible. Why do you think that basically everyone that is a evangelical Christian, almost everyone, votes Republican down the line and attacks the left? Why do you think that is?
I mean, the very definition of Republican is like they don't want change. So they'll say anything and do anything to keep things as it once was. But we have to remember, our history is slavery. Our history is genocide. Our history is the horrific treatment of indigenous people. So really, we should be changing. We should be evolving. We should be getting better. We should make informed decisions based on more education and scientific research. But instead, we keep trying to go back to what, though? Things were horrible in the past, and we glorify. I feel like Republicans glorify the past, and like there's good and that can be found, but there's a lot of bad that isn't actually acknowledged. And I think there's actually beauty in evolving and in changing in our minds and realizing, oh, these old policies, old laws, old policies don't actually fit our current world.
Gosh, you're so right when you say they don't want change. I remember Barack Obama's platform was all about change, right? When I think of, and you could tell me whether you agree or disagree with this, but when I think of a Democrat in 2024, and by the way, I don't always agree with Democrats on everything, but for the most part, when I hear the platform of Democrats today, it's about equality. It's about treating people like the LGBT community, giving them the same rights as anybody else. It's about treating minorities with respect and making sure that they're treated as equals. It's about equal pay for all. It's about helping maybe single moms raise a child, government programs, whether it be maternity leave or welfare, food stamps. Obviously, we don't want someone on food stamps or welfare for their whole life. But if they need help or they're in between jobs, whether it be unemployment benefits, when Republicans always want to seem to cut unemployment benefits, and Democrats, and Joe Biden wants to help people with student loan debt, and Republicans want to shoot that down as well. When I think of Democrats, it's about being diverse. You know, talking about diversity, helping those that are in need, coming up with programs that could help those that are poor. When I think of the Republican platform today, which is, by the way, mostly run by MAGA Republicans today and evangelical Christians, what are they talking about? They're talking about drag queen reading, like the sky is falling. They want to make it easier for people to get their hands on guns. Some of them want to take care of, get rid of Social Security and Medicare. They want to talk about gender ideology, and they want to attack transgenders, and they think, God forbid, a woman who transitions to a man, if they go into the men's room, it's World War III, like they're going to be looking at everybody's penis in there. It's like, listen, to me, that's the Republican platform today. They don't have any solutions to any of the real problems facing this country. They want to demonize people and attack people that are different from them, and they don't have any solutions to any of the problems.
Right. And it's just like, I think we just want, like you said, we want equality, we want diversity, we want inclusion. And as someone who's on food stamps for 9 years, I can attest that having government services was our saving grace, and it wasn't even enough. What we even had, what the government was even willing to give us in benefits was so little. We were scraping by, and but I was so glad we had that. Like, if we didn't have that, if those were cut, I don't know what my family would have done. And so I try to remind people, when you think about people who are on welfare, we always characterize and make people out to be these weird, codependent, they'll never get off, they're using the government. Or you can picture people like me, like hardworking, I had an education, I had children, but we just could not get on top of our bills, and we needed the government assistance. And then finally, I was able to help my family start making more money, and now we're totally good. And now we're giving back, both through taxes, but also through donations to organizations that help people who have less. Like, they really filled the gap for my family, and I don't know what we would have done without them.
By the way, I see, I sometimes I pay attention to the social media comments at times, and I see somebody, and I see several people. Most of the people are very supportive of you and what you do. But there are a few people, and there's somebody named Lane. By the way, that's a fake profile. I know exactly who that is.
Oh, okay.
There are people that are very jealous of you, and God forbid, ladies and gentlemen, a beautiful woman comes in studio and wears a beautiful dress, and there are people out there that want to demonize you for doing so. Those are the same people, in my personal opinion, when they look at themselves in the mirror, they hate themselves.
Yeah.
They hate what they look like. They hate what they sound like. They hate everything about themselves. Those are people that are very, very lonely, that are very unhappy. They're like the Donald Trumps who wake up in the morning and put 5 layers of makeup on because they don't want to see who they truly are. There are people out there. There are people out there that are very jealous. There are people out there that are very hateful. Let me tell you something. And I don't, say these things just to say it. I say it because I mean it. Nicole's a very intelligent person, a very successful person. And I respect the fact that she was in that lifestyle on the far right, the evangelical far right. She was forced into doing something that she didn't want to do. And now she's made something of herself, and she's happy, and she enjoys life, and she's a good mother. And I find it very interesting because the same people that have a problem with you coming in here, that, again, show who you are, beautiful inside and the out. But yet when it comes to Melania Trump, they'll attack you. But then when it comes to Melania Trump showing off her goods back in the day, oh, no, that's totally okay, right? That's totally okay. But I'm sure you get this a lot from people, particularly people on the far right, who I would imagine probably attack you on a regular basis.
I woke up to 15 hate comments today that I deleted. Like, it happens every day. And I had a woman actually a couple weeks ago just attack me, like insulted my eyelashes and said, "Oh my God, that is so ugly." And I messaged her, and this is public on my Instagram. I said, I will never understand that just because we disagree like that, I wouldn't ever wear that fashion, but I would never say you are ugly or that is ugly on you. And I said, I really hope you don't talk to yourself like that, because that's my assumption. If you talk to me like that, this must be exactly how you talk to yourself. You just insult yourself. You hate how you look, and you project that onto other people and make it other people's problems rather than dealing with your own insecurity, your own bodily issues, and healing that instead of making me a problem to project onto.
It's really disappointing, and it's disgusting. And there are people out there that are so jealous. You're a beautiful, intelligent, independent woman. I mean, you actually help people.
Yep.
Okay. You're not just somebody that's in it for yourself.
Right.
You help people. You're a life coach. You give people advice. You want people to be who they are and be happy with who they are. And again, there's always going to be a few trolls on social media that are going to say stupid things because they're jealous of you. And I really feel sorry for those people. I really do. I feel sorry for those people. But you know what? Then again, it is what it is. And we'll take some phone calls now. 702-221-7283 is the number to call.
I have something to say, too, because I always tell people, I was just telling another client this yesterday, people who come after me and insult me because I do OnlyFans, they're like, oh, it's easy for you to say. You just have to take your clothes off and make money on the internet. And I said, try it. Try it for a week. Especially if you have a gorgeous body.
Yeah.
And once you try it for a week, taking your clothes off and turn it into a business.
Yeah, I guarantee you the people that are saying, a few of these people that are jealous, obsessed, stalkish type people that are saying these things about you, they would actually lose money if that's possible.
They would lose money. Yeah. And it's actually really difficult.
Nobody wants to see them, trust
to
me.
monetize. Yeah. People don't realize the skill level it takes and the business acumen you have to run a lucrative OnlyFans. It is very much a business.
You run your own business.
Yep.
You're a life coach.
Yep.
You make money and you help people, and you're educated, intelligent, beautiful woman. And some people find that to be a threat.
Yeah.
I find that as a breath of fresh air, and I love it. 702-221-7283. Why don't we take some phone calls? Why don't we start off with Mike? Hi, Mike. What's going on, man?
Hello, this is Mike Oxball, the American Patriot. I just got a comment and then a question for your guest.
Okay.
Going to the Kyle Rittenhouse, I think Trump should make him his VP. He's great for the Second Amendment. I think it would be great for the Republican Party.
Well, he's not old enough. He's not old enough to be the vice president, though, so that would never happen, number one. And I would say
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I would say number two, do you think, You think it's a good look for somebody to be the vice president with no life experience or anything at all? Only the reason why you know who he is because he's a 17-year-old that showed up with an AR-15 to a very serious and dangerous Black Lives Matter protest. So you think that qualifies him to be the vice president of the United States? You think that's a good thing for the country?
Sure.
Okay,
we need a different look.
I definitely agree with you. I think a 17-year-old that shows up to a Black Lives Matter protest with an AR-15 that is uneducated is a wonderful look for the country to be the vice president. Go ahead. What was your question?
So my question for your guest was, sorry, I missed the beginning part. She is a Christian, was a Christian pastor, and now she does OnlyFans. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I am a Christian myself. I run a gun store in Philadelphia.
Okay.
We make a product. It's Trump dildos.
All right,
they are
get
not for men.
rid of them. Obviously, this is not a serious phone call, and you're an idiot, sir. 702-221-7283. By the way, when he said Kyle Rittenhouse should be the vice president, I should have just hung up on him right there.
Oh, my gosh.
702-221-7283. Let's go to Gary. Hey, Gary, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Thank you for taking my phone call again. Taking your chances. I'm not jealous of her. I'm jealous of you because I want to sit there with her and mix it up with her.
That makes sense to me.
Hi, Gary.
Gary, that might be the most common sense thing I've ever heard you say. Yeah, you're right on the money.
That's what you have against me, and that's when I'm not drinking. I just want to know why can't someone start like a 30-day cigarette smoking and pot smoking cessation therapy in Pahrump, and we could offer them sex. And we could offer them gambling in Pahrump.
Well, I'm pretty sure that if you're going to one of those places in Pahrump, they probably will let you do those things. I would imagine that's probably not against the law.
I'm trying to give your guest and your host an idea. I'm too old to do it in more ways than one.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm old.
All right.
All right, I mumbled enough. Hey, thank you. Have a great weekend.
Gary, for the idea. Appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Gary. It is interesting, though, isn't it, that in Pahrump, which is about 45 minutes away from here, prostitution is legal.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been saying from the beginning, I'm very liberal when it comes to these types of things. There's a lot of, there are some women, I shouldn't say a lot, that are on the streets illegally, which is dangerous.
Yeah.
And when it's legalized, like it is in Pahrump, there's regulation.
Yep.
People have to be tested. And there's protection, and it's done in a very safe manner. There's security. The people are treated with respect. I do think prostitution should be legalized. Like marijuana, there's zones where it should not be allowed. You don't want it near a school. You don't want it in certain areas. But yes, I do think it should be legalized and let taxes and let these people be employed. Let them be taxpayers. What are your thoughts on that?
I do. I think sex work should be decriminalized. It makes it safer for the women. It makes sure there are policies in place to protect women. It makes women not have to be afraid of their identity being leaked. All research shows that when sex work is decriminalized, everyone benefits. Plus, these are adult consenting to adult things. And when you make people go underground, that's when things get shady and dangerous and risky. And when we can decriminalize it, it brings it into the light. It normalizes it. We put in areas where adults can do their stuff.
Sure.
I'm all in favor for the decriminalization of sex work.
Yes, as am I. 702-221-7283. That number is 702-221-SAVE. Let's go to Elizabeth. Elizabeth is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi. I would like to talk to Nicole if she knows anything about I believe it's Joshua 1:9. But I have my Bible open and it doesn't seem like that is it. But it's among the evangelical movement, and they are weaponizing, literally showing up with guns at church to create an army against liberals, democracy.
Mm-hmm. You want to comment on that, Nicole?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's really interesting. As someone who's a former evangelical, which preaches a God of unconditional love and acceptance, they are the most conditional and the most exclusive. And when Jesus says turn the other cheek and to lay down your life for your enemy, we have evangelical Christians willing to take up arms and kill people they disagree with. So to me, it's such a hypocritical reaction to the very truths that Jesus spoke, and it's sad for me. It's sad for everyone.
Well, in my opinion, it's not just sad; it's incredibly dangerous.
It's so dangerous.
Yeah.
and toxic and unhealthy and hypocritical. I totally agree with you.
And isn't it sad, Elizabeth and Nicole, that these are the same people that think that drag queens are the biggest problem and the biggest threat to our children, and they want to ban books, and our children are being indoctrinated. Meanwhile, I'm sitting next to a lovely lady right here who was indoctrinated for most of her childhood life, and yet they want to preach to us that we're indoctrinating kids. It's absolutely and positively absurd.
If they think drag reading shows are grooming
Right,
children,
have a
we
weekend.
should talk about children pageants.
Yeah.
You're grooming children in your own way. So, like, let's put the light on your side of the fence instead of trying to highlight an issue over here that's not an actual issue.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for the phone call. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
All
for
right,
being
you have
here.
a great weekend. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Fernando. Fernando is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Fernando.
Hey guys, good show. Hi, Nicole. You're a beautiful woman.
Thank you.
Family Swap, Daughter Swap, and BreedMe.coms are the top sites as we speak today.
Say that again. Say that again. Wait, something about a family swap. I didn't hear it.
Family Swap, Daughter Swap, and BreedMe.com videos are the top sites in America right
Really?
now.
I never knew that. I learned something new today. I'm pretty sure everybody in Donald Trump's inner circle would like a family swap. That's for sure. I don't think anybody would want Don or Eric Jr. or Ivanka, but, it is what it is. It is what it is.
I'm a Jehovah's Witness, and, for Donald Trump to use religion against people, especially in the political theater or to get votes, is desperate. He's a desperate man. He's trying to reach out for anything. Next thing he'll say Catholics and Jehovah's Witnesses and so on and so on. He's just
hey, you know what he should
unhinged.
say? You know what Donald Trump should say? He should say, if you call yourself a white supremacist and you don't vote for me, then you're not a real white supremacist. That I would actually agree with. I would actually agree with him if you made a statement like that. If you think that you condone rape, but you're not going to vote for me, then you don't condone rape. Like, he needs to speak like that, and then I would say, okay, I can be on board with that. How
Hey
could
guys,
you,
have a great week.
Thanks.
Have a great weekend. Take care.
Thanks, Fernando. It's interesting because Republicans, and the number to call 702-221-7283, 702-221-SAVE. Republicans have lost the popular vote 6 of the last 7 presidential elections. In the last week, you've had Donald Trump insulting 70%, I would say all Jewish people, but 70% of Jews vote Democrat. And he's saying you're really not Jewish and you hate religion if you vote Democrat. And then you have Charlie Kirk who's saying you're not Christian really if you vote Democrat. Millions and millions of people that could vote Republican are hearing this stuff, right? I mean, you want to talk about being divisive and tearing people apart. Don't they need these kinds of voters? Don't they need the support?
Like, try to find, I should give them any advice. But what I try to do in my work and my business is, what is the one unifying thread? What can I tug on that's going to tug on all hearts, not just the hearts of the people in my group? Because if you do want to convert voters, if you want to have more people join your side, it's not by hating on them and telling them how they're horrible. It's going to be tugging on their heartstrings on things that they actually really care about and finding what you have in common. Yeah. And that's going to bring them a little bit closer to your side. So, the very methods they go about it is actually pushing away the millions of voters that they would like to have.
What advice, or maybe not even advice, but what would you say to somebody, Nicole, who preaches God every day, who talks about the Bible every day, called himself a good, wholesome Christian, and literally is a Trump cultist who will vote for Donald Trump no matter how many women he's found liable of rape? What would you say to a voter like that who calls themselves a good, wholesome Christian, and maybe I would call them a Bible thumper, for lack of a better word? But what would you say to somebody like that?
You know what's interesting? So in my churches, this is exactly what they do. They will vote for the Republican candidate as long as they say the right things. Nothing else matters. So in my community, as long as they said they were anti-abortion and anti-gay, they would get the vote. They could be Trump. They could be a rapist. They could be racist. They could be any horrible person. But if they say those two things, they're guaranteed our vote. And that's like when I got older and began to really realize this, I was like, whoa. Can we be mature enough to recognize just because someone says something does not mean they're the best candidate, does not mean they actually believe it. And look at their lifestyle. Look at the life they've lived. Look at the way they've actually treated people. Look at how they've policies or rules or practices they put in place in their businesses or whatever their previous experience was. That is going to give you a greater idea of what that candidate is actually like than just saying the right phrases.
Yeah, no, I
just slow down and look at the whole picture.
completely agree with you, Nicole. Before I let you go, I want you to give out the information. How can people follow you on social media? I so appreciate you being here. I hope we can hang out a little bit this weekend. It'd be a lot of fun. Congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you.
You're a wonderful person and beautiful inside and out. How do people follow you?
Yes, I'm on all the social medias, and my name is spelled with a K, Nikole. You can find me on Instagram at Mitchell Nicole. You can find me on OnlyFans, Mitchell Nicole. Come say hi. I'd love to hang out, and I'd love to meet you.
I am glad you are no longer a part of the evangelical right, and you are a breath of fresh air. Nicole Mitchell, it is so great to see you.
So good to see you.
Thank you so much for being here. All right, we're going to take a break, and coming up next, here's somebody that I've been wanting to interview for a long time. His name is Lev Parnas. He's a Ukrainian-American businessman. Yeah, he's kind of been in the news lately. He worked very close with Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump. I have so many questions to get to with him. He just testified on Capitol Hill, including Matt Gaetz. Him and Matt Gaetz got into a viral moment. I want to talk to him about Matt Gaetz. I know he has some things to say about Venmo Matt Gaetz, as he characterized him, Captain Venmo, on Twitter. It's so great. That man himself, Lev Parnas, is going to be joining us next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. Do you know no veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
Residents of Las Vegas, Ward 5, are you ready for a brighter future? I would like to introduce myself, Dr. Erica Smith, your People's Choice for City Council, with a vision for progress and the fortitude to make it happen. I am committed to moving us forward. I am not just a candidate. I am a fighter for you. With myself on the City Council, you can expect a real change and a community that thrives. Vote for Dr. Erica Smith because together we're building a better tomorrow. To learn more about me and my campaign, go to www.ericaforlasvegas.com, paid for by the Vote Dr. Smith Committee.
All right, welcome back. It's Pushing the Limits on a Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, I was watching the Capitol Hill testimony really all week pretty much, and I thought maybe the most honest witness, somebody who I do have a lot of respect for, who's doing this for all the right reasons and answering questions honestly, was Lev Parnas. He's a Ukrainian-American businessman, as you know, who worked closely with Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump. He testified on Capitol Hill, and boy, there were a lot of interesting moments in his testimony. Lev, I do appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Brian.
Thanks, Lev. Let me ask you this. I'm just curious. What is going through your mind when Matt Gaetz particularly is attacking you personally and you're getting into that with him? What is going through your mind at that time?
I mean, listen, at that time, I was just astonished and dumbfounded that after 8 hours sitting there to testify under oath, to be able to give them what I did in Ukraine, what I saw in Ukraine, so they could have it on the record. He chose to wait till the very last second to come and try to smudge me, I guess. I don't know, embarrass me, or I thought he thought that was embarrassing to say that I'm a criminal. I don't know. But the funny part about it is he forgot that he used to wear a jumpsuit also. He spent the night in jail, and he has his own problems that, I told him, I said, you don't want to go there, Matt Gaetz. You don't want to go there. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's a clown. I mean, that's all it is.
I completely agree with you. Obviously, a lot of the other MAGA Republicans up there didn't want to hear you. They didn't want to hear you, or they wanted to attack you. What were some of the facial expressions of some of those people that were in that room when you were being honest about Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani? Did you just sense that they just didn't even want to hear what you had to say?
Oh, I mean, they were just, you should have seen from Jordan to Comer, Gates was running around all day long, Pete Sessions. I mean, they were all just, they looked like they're about to throw up. They didn't know. They looked discombobulated. They didn't know what they were doing. Even their questions to their own witnesses looked confusing. I mean, they were just, like I said, it was a kangaroo court. I mean, just think about it. If they want to get down to the truth, the first two people that you call is me and Rudy Giuliani.
Right.
That's where it all started.
Yeah.
And then from there, you could start going. I mean, and the fact that they don't want to call their own hero, Rudy Giuliani, the one that discovered all of this, I mean, come on, that should tell you it all.
It does. If you're just joining us, Lev Parnas, he just testified on Capitol Hill. Let's talk about Rudy Giuliani for a moment. Here's a man who even I leaned. Here's a man who I believe was very well respected, Lev, particularly after 9/11 when he was the mayor. I thought he did a really good job, and a lot of people respected him, and I was one of them. How has it turned into who Rudy Giuliani is right now? I guess my question is, what happened to this man? He's a disgrace right now. I mean, what happened to him?
I mean, greed, but greed works in a lot of different ways. For him, it wasn't money. For him, it was the fame. He needed to be in the spotlight, and Donald Trump was his way to the spotlight. He thought that by riding Donald Trump's coattails, he could get to his dream job of Secretary of State, since he didn't make the presidency. And that's all it was about. And then he just got deeper and deeper, and, he's part of the cult. I mean, that's all I could say. I mean, once you're in that cult, I mean, it's a different world. And he's one of the leaders. He's one of the main culprits that goes out there and, brainwashes everybody.
I'm sure you've been asked this question before, but you probably knew who Donald Trump was before you got involved with any dealings with him. So the question to you is why? Why, Lev? You're obviously an extremely intelligent, well-educated man, and I appreciate your honesty, especially lately. But why did you even begin to ever get involved with Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump in the first place?
Thank you, Brandon. That's one of the reasons I wrote the book, for people to not only get all the information to be able to understand what happened, but also to get understanding who Lev Parnas was. I wasn't a politician. I was a guy that immigrated here from the Soviet Union, grew up in the streets of Brooklyn, and I looked up to guys like Donald Trump. I wanted to be a guy like Donald Trump. So to be honest with you, I didn't see nothing wrong with Donald Trump, and then I got involved with Donald Trump, and then I got heavily involved, and I got involved in the cult, and then it was done, and I was in full head.
No, I understand that, and you're not alone. By the way, there's a lot of others that have not, doing a lot worse than you've been doing. Particularly Rudy Giuliani being one of them, and a lot of others. Moving forward now, though, I'm just curious. When was the last time you had a conversation with Rudy Giuliani? Has any of his people ever attempted to reach out to you lately?
Oh, no, they're scared. They're using a new tactic, Brian. If you notice that not only Rudy, but Donald Trump has never responded to me. Here I am in the front of the whole world, impeachment of Joe Biden, basically telling the whole world that Donald Trump is involved and he knew everything that's going on. Did you hear a tweet from him? Did you hear a post from him? Did you hear a word from him? Silence, crickets. You know why? Because he doesn't want to put a light on it. They don't respond to it, because if they put a light on it, then the truth comes out. So the only way they could bury it is change the news cycle and move on, and people forget.
I would imagine, like many people in this country, including myself, they're very appreciative of your testimony on Capitol Hill. Have any prominent politicians reached out to you and thanked you for what you did?
Oh, absolutely. All of the Democratic congressmen thanked me, and I was honored and humbled to be there, and thank them for giving me the opportunity to tell the truth, because I'm not that same person I was 4 years ago. I've gone through a major change. I've been able to see exactly what's going on, and that's why I'm able to come out and now do what I'm doing.
You know, I look at Bobulinski's testimony and I think of it as the opposite of yours. You're up there with integrity. You're honest. You're answering questions freely and honestly. And then I see this other man who, at least it appears to me, that's doing the opposite of what you're doing. He has a grudge with Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. I don't believe he's answering questions honestly and directly. What did you make of his testimony if you had the opportunity to watch it?
Oh, I sat right next to him. Not only did I watch it, I heard the whole
Right,
thing.
of course, right.
I mean,
Right.
Look, I told him there that you keep doing what you're doing, and you're going to end up the same place I did, prison. And that's the bottom line. And that's why he got all upset and tried to say that I attacked him. And I said to him, just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, the bottom line is, look, this is a guy that there's a lot more to the story, I think, that we have heard yet. He put himself in the spotlight. We obviously see that he has a grudge. He has really no information except for hearsay and maybe, and it looked like it. And, he said that first time he met Joe Biden, and that means that that's it. Joe Biden told him to go, rob a bank or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I think there's a lot more to the story. I think we're good, just like with the other witnesses.
Right.
I think we haven't heard the less of Tony Bobulinski.
I don't know, Lev. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't know if you can answer this question, Lev. It's a question I've been asking myself for a long time. What does Vladimir Putin have on Donald Trump? Donald Trump refuses to call him out for anything, right? In fact, sides with him and praises him. What does Vladimir Putin have on this man?
Nothing. It's simply that Donald Trump is a narcissistic idiot. And basically, he's Putin's puppet. He's his useful fool. Putin himself probably sits there and chuckles and can't believe the shit that Donald Trump does. Excuse me for my language. But, Donald Trump wants to be admired by Putin. He wants to come out on the world stage where him and Putin are like friends and are on the same level. So the only way he could do that is by keep sending Putin messages. And also, don't forget, Donald Trump needs Vladimir Putin. See, when people think Vladimir Putin has something on Donald Trump, and that's why he's so eager, wrong. Donald Trump needs Vladimir Putin to get back in power. He understands that what Vladimir Putin and Russia is doing to interfere in our elections to get Donald Trump elected, that's the biggest payoff of them all.
Do you believe that Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani want Russia to win this war in the Ukraine?
I don't think it's about wanting to win. I think the thing is they just don't care. I don't think they just care. That's the problem. That's the sad part. Yeah. I don't think they just care what happens over there and who dies or what happens. As long as it pleases Putin, because it'll please, then in return they'll get something out of it.
Right.
Just think about it. If Ukraine wins, what does Trump get out of it?
Sure.
And don't forget, he hates Ukraine. Right. He's withheld aid. I could tell you everything Donald Trump feels about Ukraine.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. I agree with you 100%. A couple more quick questions for you, Levin. We appreciate your time. So there are a lot of donors and people that spend private time, right, with a Donald Trump or maybe even back in the day, a Rudy Giuliani. But your private time with them was very different. So my question to you is, what is it like hanging out, spending time, whatever the case may be, with a Rudy Giuliani and a Donald Trump when the cameras aren't on them? What are they like when nobody else is around but somebody like Lev Parnas?
They're arrogant, they're self-centered, they're all about them. You could see the narcissism flowing out. Look, when you're in that world and you're part of that cult, it's an amazing feeling because you're sitting with the most powerful people in the world and everybody around you and everybody knows it. And it's just an incredible feeling. But when you get out of that bubble and you see how they talk about people, just even constituents. People will walk by, they'll take a picture and then make a comment. If it's a woman or something, Rudy would always make a lewd comment, look at her or something, the way she's dressed so it's, also, even though Rudy tried to play that role that he is for Jews and he's, does all this thing, but you could see these little things slip by where he really wasn't. Like he had, you could tell the truth, especially when he had too much to drink, was usual. You could see these things slip by. But, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. Please continue.
No, what I was going to say is the most important thing I wanted to say to your audience out there, and very important, that unfortunately, because they're trying to silence me and because they don't want the truth to come out, it's not going to happen. They won't silence me. I will be posting. I'd like for whoever out there to follow me at Lev Parnas on Twitter. I'm going to be posting. I just currently literally posted before we came on the show evidence that didn't come out in the impeachment because of them, but I posted an email from John Solomon telling me that the FBI got Hunter Biden's bank records, and he gave them to me. And this is going back to March of 2019. So I'm going to be posting more and more.
Good.
Also, anybody that really wants to understand what's going on, because unfortunately, Brian, one podcast, one interview, you can't get it all in because it's all subject matters.
Sure.
That's why I wrote the book. I recommend everybody reads the book because you will really then understand the level of corruption that Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and a lot of other people went to.
Yeah, and I want people to get your hands on that book. I want to read it as well. I guess this would be my last question for you. What would be your message out there to all the MAGA Trump supporters out there who Donald Trump said I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they'll still support me? For the cultists out there who, by the way, you probably can't change their mind. I certainly can't. Many of them are brainwashed. But I'm just curious, for the politicians like the Jim Jordans and the James Comers and the Matt Gaetzes out there, to the millions of Americans that still support Donald Trump, Lev, what would be your message to them?
I'd say open up your eyes before it's too late. Whatever you're thinking, he's an imaginary hero in your mind. And I promise you, if you really get to know the real Donald Trump or any other of these people that are pushing these lies, you'll understand that it's not about you. They're self-centered, narcissistic. It's all about them. Donald Trump would not allow you ever into his home, into his Mar-a-Lago, or anywhere else. The real Donald Trump, trust me, you don't know this person. He's a fake that comes out there. And at the end of the day, he's a coward because, he has no, just think about it. Crickets, not one tweet, not one response. But I'm going to keep putting out the messages out there. And I'm going to putting out the proof until one day we forget who Donald Trump is and we could start uniting our country again and stop this division.
Amen, Lev. Well said. I guess the good news is it might not be his Mar-a-Lago sometime soon, but we'll have to wait and see about that. Lev, thank you so much for your honesty and what you've done. It's so important. I thought your testimony was captivating and honest. And, you're on the right side of history, my friend, and I appreciate what you do. And we'd love to have you on the show again down the road, Lev, but I really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. Absolutely. And everybody out there, watch out for Venmo Matt Gaetz. He's on the prowl.
He probably is. Check out that Venmo account. I love it. Again, Lev, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Brian.
You too. Have a good weekend. Lev Parnas, buddy. Venmo Matt Gaetz, or as I like to call him, DUI Matt Gaetz. What a scumbag Matt Gaetz is, huh? What a scumbag. Listen, Lev made some mistakes. He paid the price for it. But like a Michael Cohen or others that are now on the right side of history that might have paid the price, Lev Parnas is now telling the truth. Thank God. His testimony, I think, had a ton of integrity in it, and he's calling out Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani for who they are. He has no reason to lie. And the MAGA Republicans out there, they can't stand it. They don't like it. They don't like it. We'll have Lev Parnas back on the show down the road. I appreciate him taking the time to join us, and I think the only other interview he did after that testimony was with CNN. I think this was the first radio interview he did since he testified in Capitol Hill. So we're really appreciative that he took the time to join us. He's got a sense of humor. There's no question about that. Boy, his testimony was riveting. And as I forgot, he was right next to Bobolinsky. He was right next to him during that testimony, and he told us that he looked at him and he said, keep doing what you're doing. You're going to end up like me, meaning you're going to end up in jail if you keep doing what you're doing. Sadly, Lev Parnas is right. He's 100% correct. Get your hands on his book. It's a great book. Listen, if you want to follow me on YouTube, at PTL Radio Show, where you can stream my show live. We also ask that you click on that subscriber button on the Occupy Democrats Network Facebook page. It's only $5 a month. It's a cup of coffee. So you can do that there as well. My website is ptlradio.com. We are going to have some merchandise that we're going to be selling because I've heard from a lot of listeners, we want some PTL merchandise. So we are going to have some PTL merchandise that we are going to be selling. I'm open to any ideas. I'm thinking of my big mug right here, PTL Radio, and then on the back, don't be a right-wing buffoon. I'm thinking of selling those mugs and those T-shirts. I can't steal Jimmy Kimmel when he said, "Is it your jail time yet?" I can't use that one. He's trademarked that already. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We will see you back on the show on Monday. Thanks to Nicole Mitchell for joining us, for Julio Rosas for joining us, and for Lev Parnas for joining us, and, of course, all of your phone calls. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.